Excellencies, President Gurib Fakim, Minister Hendricks, Minister Pohl, dear colleagues, both here and online. I knew it would be a tour de force to speak after Eric, but it's actually worse than I thought. So let me give it a try. First of all, it's an honor to be here today as we open a new chapter of the Global Landscapes Forum. As many of you may know, the World Bank has been a part of the forum, a partner of the forum since its inception. And so I'm really very honored to be here. For the World Bank, sustainable landscapes are integral to meeting our twin goals, and those two goals are ending extreme poverty in the world and boosting shared prosperity, and to do so in a sustainable manner. So forests, trees, healthy soils and landscapes contribute to economic growth, to jobs, to food and energy security, and economic and environmental resilience. And today, I'm going to talk about why landscape restoration and landscape management is an urgency, why it's not optional, and about the positive trends that we are seeing when it comes to sustainable landscapes. And finally, I'm going to talk about what we think it will take to go faster and quicker to sustainable landscapes. So first, we heard already from President Gurib Fakim that it is not optional to manage landscapes and to restore landscapes. It's not something that we can choose away because other things are also important. And why is that? Well, first, forest and landscape degradation carries a very heavy price tag. To give you an example, in Burundi, landscape degradation is about 4% of GDP on an annual basis. And the forest fires in Indonesia in 2015 cost the country more than what it cost to reconstruct Aceh after the tsunami, just to give you an idea about that. Then, as we also just heard, forest degradation and land use change contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions. Estimates vary, they're around 12%, and actually NASA reports that forest degradation emits more gases than the deforestation itself. And the situation is deteriorating quite rapidly. Some 24 billion tons of fertile soil are eroded every year, and about 12 million hectares of land are degraded. So it's then not surprising why we would see a lot of economic gains that could be had from halting forest loss and degradation and restoring degraded lands, because the gains are huge, some 170 billion a year for restoring the 350 million hectares that we all are talking about in the context of the Bonn Challenge and the broadening of that challenge over the past year. So this is overall a bit of a gloomy picture, but thankfully there's some reason for hope. We know that change is possible and also that it's underway. We see that a number of countries are coming forward with strategies for large-scale forest and landscape programs and that want to make a shift towards sustainable rural economies. We also see that there is a new forest economy that is emerging. It is spurred by a variety of drivers. One is, and it may sound a little bit counterintuitive, but one is that there is a global growing demand for timber and forest products, which is expected to quadruple by 2050. There's an increasing investment in trees and forests by sectors such as agriculture, infrastructure, and disaster risk management, because that makes economic sense. And there is a better understanding of the economic value of services from forests, such as water supply regulation and filtration, that underpin national economies. Now, these potential benefits from forests are significant in the landscapes context because producing sustainable forest products has the potential to create millions of rural jobs and to drive green growth, and that in turn is an incentive for forest and landscape restoration. Incorporating trees into agriculture improves crop yields and food security. I just was in Ghana a few months ago, and I saw how very poor communities in the semi-arid areas of northern Ghana were able to increase their yield 8-fold by relatively simple landscape restoration ways. And that really matters for these communities because they are semi-arid, they have in the dry season, they have no food, so to be able to have such higher yields makes a huge difference for their way of life and also for being able to continue to live in those areas. And then finally, using trees for disaster risk management is a cost-effective means for reducing flooding and devastation from storms. So for example, in the Philippines, restoring mangroves to what they were in the 1950s would deliver more than $450 million per year in flood protection benefits. Now, I'd like to come to my last point that I want to talk about, and that is what will it take to get where we want to be in terms of sustainable landscapes even faster and with greater impact. And I think in a variety of fora during the Landscapes Forum, you are going to talk about that. And it will take what I like to call the 3 I's. It's information, innovation, and incentives. We need to put the right information and evidence-based data in the hand of ministers of finance so that they know what the cost of environmental degradation is, but also what the options are in order to deal with that challenge. We need to show proof that it is possible to restore and that it can be done in a cost-effective way. Some of the credible studies that are out there show that for $1 that you invest in landscape restoration, you can get a return of between $7 and $30. That's a pretty good deal when you're a finance minister and you need to make a decision where you will put your money and where your priorities are. And that is the information we need to create and that we need to get out. The second part is innovation. And that is both on the technology side and research side. We heard from the president earlier today how very little funding goes, for instance, to research in Africa. Well, we need more research in order to be able to see what we can do, but we also need more technologies. The other part of innovation is on the financing side, where we have to have new instruments and new ideas of how to combine public and private funding. And we see a lot of these things blossoming, and I'm sure that there is still a way to go of how we can go even further because the funding gap is very large. And then finally, incentives are needed to attract public and private investment and to establish progressive regulatory environments with good governance and clear rights so that sustainable landscapes can flourish. For instance, incentives that empower youth, like Ethiopia has done by providing thousands of landless youth with property rights in exchange for restoring degraded communal lands. And other incentives, of course, are also needed for the private sector. So in closing, let me say again that sustainable landscapes are fundamental for the future we all want, for people, for economies, and for the health of our planet. And that's why the movement that we are building together through the Global Landscapes Forum is so important. And together we can and we will make sustainable landscapes the priority that they must be. And let me just paraphrase Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, and he said something to the effect that the surest way to success is to keep trying. And I think that's why we are all here. Thank you very much.